They thought he was just a janitor until he bought the company they worked for. The building was tall and made of shining glass. Every morning, people in suits rushed inside, their shoes clicking on the marble floor. They carried laptops, coffee cups, and phones glued to their ears. Nobody ever noticed the man in the gray uniform pushing a cart with a mop and broom. His name was Mr. Daniels. Mr. Daniels was quiet. He cleaned the floors when they were dirty, emptied the trash when it was full, and fixed small things when they were broken. People brushed past him like he was part of the furniture. Some executives didn't even look at him when he greeted them. Interns giggled when he walked by, whispering that he was too old and slow. Management acted like he was invisible. But Mr. Daniels didn't mind. At least, that's what everyone thought. In truth, he saw everything. Every late-night meeting, every argument in the hallway, every deal made with cold voices. He noticed who treated the security guards kindly and who barked at assistants. He kept all these things quietly inside him, never saying a word. Nobody knew his secret. Years ago, Mr. Daniels had built a small startup in his garage. He worked day and night creating something powerful. That little startup grew into a global company. Then, at the peak of success, he sold it for millions of dollars. He could have lived anywhere, done anything, retired in comfort. But instead, he returned undercover. He wanted to see how powerful corporations treated people at the very bottom. And so he became a janitor again. Every day, he smiled softly, kept his head down, and mopped the floors. But inside, he was watching, waiting, learning. He owned more of the company than anyone in that building. He was the silent majority shareholder. The walls, the offices, the very boardroom they sat in, it was his. And yet, not one of them had a clue. Amara walked into the building for the first time with her heart pounding in her chest. She was an intern, just 19, with big dreams in her eyes. Her brown notebook was clutched tightly in her hands, filled with ideas and sketches. She wanted to show everyone that she was smart, that she deserved to be there. But the corporate world was cold. On her first day, when she accidentally spilled coffee on her desk, 2 interns laughed. One of the executives sneered, "Careful, little girl. This is not a daycare." Amara forced herself to smile, but inside, it stung. She worked harder than anyone, staying late, rewriting reports, and double-checking details. Still, no one noticed, except Mr. Daniels. He saw her picking up papers when no one helped. He saw her crying quietly in the bathroom before fixing her makeup and going back with a brave face. He saw her kindness when she thanked him for cleaning her desk one evening. She was one of the few people who ever looked him in the eye and said, "Thank you, sir." That night, when everyone had left, Mr. Daniels stood in the empty boardroom. His reflection looked back at him from the glass table. He whispered softly, "One day, Amara, one day they will see you. And they will see me too." The room was silent, but his words hung heavy in the air. The project was big, the biggest of the year. The board wanted results, and the managers were nervous. Dozens of people worked on it, from senior directors to fresh interns. Amara poured her heart into it. She stayed up late, crunching numbers, fixing slides, adding details that no one asked for. She wanted it to shine. But when the day came, something went wrong. The screen froze. The files were missing. The data looked broken. The boardroom erupted with angry voices. Fingers pointed everywhere. Someone whispered. It was the intern. Amara's chest tightened. She knew she had checked everything. She had double-saved the files, tested the presentation 3 times. But the leaders wanted someone to blame, and the youngest, lowest person in the room was easy to choose. "Amara," one director said sharply, "you ruined this. Do you understand the cost of your failure?" Her throat burned. Tears filled her eyes, but she refused to cry. She opened her mouth to defend herself, but no words came. In the corner of the room, silent as always, Mr. Daniels stood with his mop. His eyes narrowed. For years, he had said nothing. But this moment was different. Something inside him moved like a locked door creaking open. The room didn't know it yet, but the quiet janitor was about to speak. And when he did, everything in that company would change forever. The boardroom was tense. Every eye was on Amara. She stood frozen, her notebook clutched so tightly that her knuckles turned white. She wanted to scream that it wasn't her fault. She wanted to tell them that she had checked every detail. But the voices around her drowned her out. She's careless. She's just an intern. This is why we shouldn't trust children with serious work. Her heart broke with each word. Mr. Daniels stood by the wall, hands resting on his mop. He looked at the directors, men and women in polished suits, their eyes sharp with anger. He looked at Amara, trembling, her lips pressed tight so she wouldn't cry. Inside him, something stirred. Years of silence. Years of watching. Years of letting things slide. But now, the moment he had been waiting for had come. He cleared his throat. Just a small sound. But it was enough to make the room pause. Everyone turned. For the first time, they looked at him. Really looked. "What are you doing here?" One executive snapped. "This is a private meeting." Mr. Daniels stepped forward slowly. His voice was calm but heavy. "I have been here for years. Cleaning your floors. Emptying your trash. Listening. Watching. And now, I have something to say." A nervous laugh came from one corner. What could a janitor possibly have to say about this? But Mr. Daniels didn't flinch. His eyes were steady. His hand rested on the chair at the head of the table, the chair no one sat in unless the majority shareholder visited. He said softly, "This chair belongs to me." The room went silent. No one spoke for a long moment. They blinked at him like he had lost his mind. Then laughter broke the silence. One director chuckled. "Don't waste our time. Sit down before you embarrass yourself." "Who let him in here?" Amara looked up, her eyes wide. She had always felt something different about Mr. Daniels, but she never imagined this. Mr. Daniels placed his mop carefully against the wall. Then he pulled a small folder from his cart. Inside were papers, old, worn, but powerful. He opened it and placed it on the table. "Your contracts, your shares, your signatures, all of them signed under the company that I own." They leaned forward, frowning, scanning the pages. Slowly, their smiles faded. One man's hand began to tremble. Another woman pressed her lips together, her face draining of color. "No, this can't be." But it was. The papers showed clearly Mr. Daniels held more than half of the company. He was the silent majority shareholder. He looked around the room, his voice low but sharp. "For years, I stayed silent. I wanted to see how you treat those who serve you, the ones you call invisible. And what I saw was cruelty, arrogance, disrespect." Amar's eyes filled with tears, but this time they weren't from shame. They were from hope. The directors scrambled. Some whispered into their phones. Others tried to smile politely, as if nothing had happened. Mr. Daniels once said quickly, "We didn't know. If we had known, you would have treated me differently." He cut in. His voice was calm, but there was steel underneath. That is exactly the problem. Respect should not depend on wealth, or titles, or clothes. The words echoed across the boardroom. Amara felt her chest rise with a strange relief. She wasn't alone anymore. Someone was standing for her. One executive leaned forward, trying to regain control. "We apologize for the misunderstanding, sir." The girl, Amara, she may have made mistakes, but Mr. Daniels raised his hand. "Stop. I watched her work harder than any of you. I watched her stay late, fix her errors, and carry weight far heavier than her role. And tonight you tried to crush her." No one dared speak. He turned to Amara. His eyes softened. "You are not to blame. You are worth more than they can see." Her throat closed, her body shaking. No one had ever spoken for her like that. In that moment, she felt something rise inside her. Not fear, not shame, but strength. The silence grew heavier. Finally, the CEO, a tall man named Robert, stood. His face was stiff, his voice low. "Mr. Daniels, I admit we may have underestimated you. But this is business. We cannot let emotions rule decisions." Mr. Daniels looked at him steadily. "And yet, you let arrogance and pride rule yours." Robert's jaw tightened. He looked at the board, then back at Mr. Daniels. "What do you want?" The question hung in the air like a storm. Everyone leaned forward, waiting for his answer. Mr. Daniels walked slowly around the table. His shoes echoed softly against the floor. When he spoke, his voice was calm but powerful. I want truth. I want respect. And I want this company to remember the value of every person who walks through its doors. The board shifted uncomfortably. Some whispered to each other. Others stared at the table, unable to meet his gaze. Amara sat very still, her heart pounding. She didn't know what was coming next. She only knew that the quiet janitor was no longer quiet, and the walls around them would never feel the same again. Robert forced a smile. Of course, we can discuss values, respect, and vision. But tonight, this meeting was about the failed project. He looked at Amara coldly. We cannot ignore it. Mr. Daniels' eyes darkened. Failed project? Or failed leadership? The room froze again. Tell me, he continued, his voice sharp now. Who checked the systems before the presentation? Who confirmed the files were secure? Who gave final approval? The directors shifted in their seats. One man coughed nervously. Another looked at the floor. It wasn't Amara, Mr. Daniels said firmly. She did her work. She prepared everything. I know because I saw her. I watched her save copies. I watched her double-check. The failure was not hers. It was yours. A hush fell over the room. No one dared to argue. Amara's chest felt tight, but this time with something new pride. Someone believed her. Someone saw her. Mr. Daniels leaned on the table, his eyes sweeping across every face. I own this company, but tonight, I'm ashamed of it. That will change. And for the first time, the people who thought they ruled the building felt small in their own boardroom. The boardroom was quiet. The air felt heavy, as if everyone had forgotten how to breathe. Mr. Daniels stood tall, no longer just the janitor with a mop, but the man who owned the very company they worked for. Amara sat trembling, her notebook still in her hands, her eyes wet with silent tears. Robert, the CEO, tried again. Mr. Daniels, let us. Enough, Mr. Daniels cut him off. His voice was calm, but it carried the weight of a storm. You spent years walking past me, laughing at me, treating me as nothing. Tonight, you showed me more than arrogance. You showed me how quick you are to crush the young, to blame the innocent. He turned and looked at Amara. His eyes softened. But you also showed me hope. Amara, you worked with honesty, with courage, with respect. That is what this company needs. The board members shifted uncomfortably. I will not run this place the way you have run it, Mr. Daniels continued. From this day forward, things will change. Everyone, whether janitor, intern, assistant, or executive, will be treated with dignity. He walked slowly back to the head of the table, resting his hand on the chair that symbolized power. For years, it had sat empty. Now, everyone knew who it truly belonged to. Robert's face grew pale. Are you saying you're taking control? Mr. Daniels gave a small smile. I never lost control. I only stayed silent. But silence is over. He looked back at Amara. And as for you, you will not be blamed. Instead, you will lead. Her heart stopped. Lead? Me? Yes, he said firmly. You will join the project team as a full staff member. You have earned it. Not because of pity, not because of me, but because of your work. This company needs people like you. Amara's tears fell freely now, but they were not tears of shame. They were tears of pride. The room remained silent. None of the board dared to argue. For the first time, they understood the man they mocked owned their futures, and the girl they tried to crush had been lifted higher than all of them. Mr. Daniels picked up his mop again. His voice was quiet, almost gentle. Respect is not a gift you give only to the powerful. It is the foundation of every great company, every great life. Remember that. Then, without another word, he walked out of the boardroom. Amara followed, her notebook pressed to her chest. She didn't need to write anything down. She would remember this night forever. Behind them, the executives sat in stunned silence. The walls seemed to whisper the truth. The janitor was the king, and the intern was the future. Final lesson, true leadership is not about power or control, but about lifting others up. A company, a family, or a community only grows strong when everyone, from the highest to the lowest, is valued and respected. If you found this story captivating, Don't forget to subscribe and share.